The game Monopoly is back at McDonald's, bigger and better than ever.
This year, there's more prizes than ever.
McDLT!
Coca-Cola! Congratulations!
Hey, collect the right game pieces
And win $2 million!
If you were a child of the late 80s, early 90s, there's no doubt you remember the McDLT, where you had the quote-unquote hot side and the cold side. And if I recollect properly, it was probably McDonald's attempt to compete with the Whopper. But they gave you this big, huge styrofoam plate, and it had the hot side, cold side separated. But what was more exciting, of course, during that time was playing the McDonald's game. And as kids of that era, we would rush to McDonald's with the little money we had and get the piece that would hopefully be Park Place or Boardwalk that would complete you getting the $1 million. Of course, there was a small problem when you read the fine print, of course, one of them being when it said participating locations only. But that wasn't the thing that we really should have been worried about. There was something else that was a bigger problem.
There's over $50 million in prizes, including hundreds of Walt Disney World vacations on Delta Airlines. Play Monopoly at McDonald's.
It's not just big, it's huge.
When we were playing this game as young kids, we would take our little extra change and buy an extra large fry, hoping we get that magic piece, the Park Place or the Boardwalk, that would be the completing piece to give us the grand prize, or in smaller hopes, just hoping to get something a little smaller and win a free burger. But it turns out that scammers rigged McDonald's Monopoly game and stole $24 million at the time. Jacobson, also known as Uncle Jerry, was a security director, and in the 1990s, he made the game pieces of the McDonald's promotional contest. Jacobson's job was to look after the game pieces for McDonald's, making sure that no employees pocketed any of the prizes, but Jacobson found a way to rig the popular game so that the most lucrative winning game pieces would almost always find their way to people he knew.
This game is rigged.
There are some young men who dream of having power so they can abuse that power.
Oh, yeah.
And there are young women who dream of having power so that they will no longer have to be abused. And that is the ultimate divide. Is that a young man gets to grow up and go, I can't wait till I have power because I can do whatever I want and no one will stop me. And a young woman goes, once I have power, I won't have to worry about anyone using theirs against me.
If you're a person who's ever had the joy of working at a fast food restaurant, one of the things that you always do when you hear a promotion is look down at the really, really small print and see if it says at participating locations or at all locations. Because if it says participating locations, you could call your nearest one and that's just not going to be available for you, and you'd have to go to a different place if it's available in your area at all. One of the things I really appreciate about the fact that we've now had a second woman run for president is that America is now a participating location in equality. If you're going to have a woman president, and certainly both of them have been very close, if not capable and close enough to the presidency that a woman has shown that she can do the job, if we're in this kind of place in America, then we have to make sure that America is functioning as a participating location for equality. And if that is indeed the case, then that means that the game rules are in effect if you're dealing with someone, and in this particular case, a young lady in America.
Can I have some money?
Damn! How much you need?
Whatever you feel like giving, kind sir.
The fact that I don't like what a woman sings. I
just wanna see how
that
genuine.
I'm a cool,
I can't-
fun
look, I
nigga, though.
can't-
Like, the fact I put out the stack like that, and I knew to bring that, because I know, like, now I know,
I
like,
need a man that provides, that
yeah,
takes
but
pride in being a
sometimes,
provider.
like,
You feel me?
it's just natural, though.
Yeah, but I
But
gotta
I
make
brought
sure.
this just for bait, to see, like, who would jump out of line and just, like, skip every round just to run to the bag.
The argument that this young lady is making, that men want to get power so that they can have control, and she uses the A word, which I won't repeat, but women just want a chance to get some power so that they can be free, if you will. That's an argument that works great if you're talking about 1950, 1960, 1965, 1970. But we know in 2024, there are women that have money and power, And what they do with the power, that's a different story for a different day. But the argument she's making is a little bit of the old argument and a little bit of the new argument. And we have to remember, we are currently in a participating location. And if that's the case, what's the difference? We're all the same pretty much, right? If a woman can be president, then a woman can make her own money and pursue power on her own.
We don't want money. They probably just like...
Nah, because the money comes with some genuine shit. You get more when you're genuine, though.
I'm a genuine person.
But the fact that you got out of line...
We gonna be...
No. The fact that you got out of line and ran up to that...
She did.
I want it.
Damn, that's a no.
Like,
I
at the
can't
end of
fuck
the
with
day,
that.
still everybody want money at the end of the day.
Securing the game pieces often meant Jacobson had to personally carry them in a case shut with a tamper-proof seal. He would then take the stickers to packaging centers around the country where he would apply them himself to French fry cartons and soda cups bound for McDonald's locations previously selected by a random computer drawing. McDonald's ran multiple Monopoly game promotions in the late 1980s and early 1990s, but in 1995, the fast food giant ramped up the stakes, and prizes ballooned from thousands of dollars to a grand prize of $1 million. For Jacobson, who reportedly earned about $70,000 a year, the temptation to siphon off the winning pieces seemingly became too strong. It was then that Jacobson's multi-million-dollar scheme kicked off in earnest, federal officials say. When we went to McDonald's as young kids and we played the McDonald's game, we didn't really think about the game behind the game. We were just trying to get a color set so that we can get a little prize that we could brag about. And so maybe we bought an extra set of French fries or an extra drink in hopes of getting that extra piece that might complete our set. What we didn't know at the time was that there was an actual game behind the game. Of course, would we have played the game the same way? Probably, because we enjoyed McDonald's and it was a fun game to play. But if you were one of the people trying to get that boardwalk piece and you could never get it, then you realize something that guys are starting to realize now in the dating, mating space, especially in countries where equality is mandating. You're playing by a different set of rules. And if you're playing by a different set of rules, you have to amend the way that you're playing the game. Cue Slim Charles.
This was the old days?
Yeah, now, well, the thing about the old days, they the old days.
The fact that y'all are calling the NBA the MNBA is so funny. If you don't understand this trend, what they're saying is that the WNBA is Women's National Basketball Association. So the men should also follow suit and have Men's National Basketball Association. Like, I'm sorry. MNBA is like a doozy to say, but shout out to whoever started this trend because it is so funny. Shout out to women's basketball. Shout out to basketball, period. I love it here.
What you'll often hear in a lot of the conversations about modern dating is that young women want guys to quote unquote step up. Of course, there are times you'll hear relationship talk where young ladies need to do X, Y, and Z, but pay attention specifically to the reminder that guys need to keep playing the old part of the old game.
Our culture switched. And like when I was growing up, I used to want to be like Felicia Rashad. Like I remember Maya Angelou, she told me she was proud of me for what I was doing. I was like, oh my God, like that was a big deal to me, right? Because I looked up to women that were older. But at this point, older women want to be younger.
Yep.
Right? So you have 40-year-old women and 46-year-old women trying to look like and act like the 23-year-old. Then how do you know? Because when you're young, you don't think there's consequences, right? Yeah. The only way you know there's consequences is someone, like you said, the OG pulls you to the side and is like, look. So I feel like the problem is in our culture specifically, like we don't value experience and age. Like I look to those women for what I wanted to be, but there's nobody like that now. Like now, I mean, there are some, there's some amazing, but really the culture is chasing youth. So it's like backwards. The older women want to be young. That's the only thing. Like, there are women, and this is no disrespect, but no women in their 60s getting BBLs. Like,
what's very interesting about what she's saying is that she's holding a mirror up to other black women, which is her purview. She can do what she pleases to. If this is a conversation about that, it should remain a conversation about that. But it's very interesting because we keep hearing the word our community when we know that we can't walk into a Walmart or a regular place where people are convening and say, hey, young lady, you need to cover up. If you try that, you know what's going to happen. But notice how the conversation merges right back to not just them, but
that's crazy.
What is happening? What are we doing? So how can a woman who's 23 trust your leadership if you're trying to look like her? Felicia Rashad wasn't trying to look like, I was trying to be like her. But if she was on the stage with, you know, her butt out and trying to look like me, then I wouldn't have respected her. So I feel like we don't, of course people don't believe there's consequences because the older people are lying. They're lying. They're chasing the same thing. So you have rappers in their 40s and 50s getting into beef with Kodak Black. Like that makes no sense. There should be, like, in order to lead, you have to lead by example. Yeah. And to me, everybody is chasing the youth, the younger culture, which makes them disrespect. Why would I look at you? You want to be like me.
These are the pawns. They like the soldiers. They move like this, one space forward only, except when they fight. And it's like this. And they like the front lines. They be out in the field.
Well, I think another thing is, and I'll take the accountability for the men, and I hate that I have to do that right now. But there's a lot of older men that want to be young.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And a lot of times it's the ones, I would say, that aren't married.
So how do you get to be the king? It ain't like that. See, the king, stay the king, all right? Everything stay who he is, except for the pawns.
It always.
And so now they want to be young so they can get the young girl, right? And now you have the older women who want to look young because the one in her age group is looking at the younger girl and dressing young and damn near acting young.
Acting young, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like, at what point are we going to have people that want to actually be a real community role model?
Pawn, made it all the way down to the other dude's side, you get to be queen.
I think one of the best things to come out of this particular election is that now that there's a second woman running for the most powerful position in America, it's very difficult to say that a woman can do the job of president, but we don't have a society that's equal. If we're not equal, then it's by definition she can't do the job. But we know these are very well moneyed, they're very powerful, they're competent. Some people will argue that, but that's not for this video. Individuals, and they are up to the task of doing the job, or at least enough people think so that it's a two-person race. And so in this environment, we're essentially in one of the participating locations. What's so interesting about the McDonald's game is if you were playing the game just so you could get an extra set of French fries or win a burger or a drink, you play the game the right way. But if you were playing the game to try and win the $1 million, then of course you couldn't win the game that way. But what's funny about the new dating game or the new environment is that now that the rules are different, we get to move differently in the game. If you're dealing with people in the game in America and they're saying, I don't go on dates unless you pay for everything, or I want a provider, it's like, what? This is not the same game that we're playing from 70 years ago. This is 2024 game. Heck, I would even say in countries like Japan, where I am, if a young lady wants to go on a date and she wants a very expensive date, then the idea of just going on the date to be romantic is not something that is the same as it would have been 30, 40, 50 years ago. In effect, the environment has rewritten the rules. And so now the rules of engagements for guys have changed along with the political climate, the power of the black male, independent thinking black male vote. And now guys in the dating market or even dealing with women can hear women say, I want a provider, and say, well, in this participating market or in this participating store, those rules don't quite apply. But if I go somewhere else where the rules are different, then I could see going by the old man is the provider patriarchy rules. Because if you're in a place where there is no patriarchy rule and everyone's legislated to be equal, dating rules got to change and the women have to accept it. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below. I'll catch you next video. Take care.